I think being Jewish today is a very unique experience.
Definitely feels more isolating than it used to be. You definitely feel like the whole world is a bit against you.
You also hear like tragic news all the time. This Jewish person being killed, this Jewish family being killed.
Growing up, we always learned about the Holocaust in books and textbooks and movies and lectures. And so going to Poland itself was a step more towards seeing things firsthand.
My name is Mendy Zisman, and I'm coming on this trip to keep an eye on the guys, make sure everything's going smoothly. And as a grandchild of Holocaust survivors from both my mother and father's side, I definitely do think it's very important to be exposed and to actually go through the camps and actually try to see and experience what was happening back then.
It's an interesting dichotomy that while at home I feel so safe, in the world there may be people that don't actually like me for who I am.
Stuff has happened in the past, stuff's happening now, especially in Israel.
As a guy who's watching the world right now, I think there's a real chance that we'll be able to come out of this much stronger and we'll be able to rebuild in a really great way.
So we're looking forward for a very meaningful trip and to have all the guys really understand and learn about this important Jewish history and to be able to take it into their daily lives, to be strong Jews and proud of where we come from.
Before we pull out of outside, can you hear me in the back? We're heading towards what's called the Poland Museum, which is a wonderful museum of the history of the Jews of Poland. Poland for many centuries, going back to the 1200s and probably earlier. Poland was a center for Jews. Jews flourished in Poland for a long, long time. Before the war, the Jewish population of Poland was about 10% of the population in the entire country.
Going into Poland, I really wasn't sure what to expect. I was a little nervous, to be honest. I'd never been.
Hearing stories from other people and seeing pictures is one thing. I wanted to be able to go to these places and see them firsthand and see how Jewish life in Poland was before the Holocaust and then how it was destroyed after.
There's the Poland Museum, and you can see the architecture is such that the glass panels are made to look like waves, representing the liberation of the Jewish people.
We are on day 2. Everyone is on the bus, and we are heading to Daven Shachris now. Yesterday, we went to the Poland Museum straight from the airport, and it was really incredible to see what heritage that we have in Poland and how really all of our ancestors were coming from these areas and how they were thriving communities.
So, Bruchim Habayim, welcome to Warsaw. Surprisingly, actually, pretty city and nice. You guys got good weather. We're all happy, right? Being a Jew in Warsaw in Poland today, what's it like? What's going on here? Why are there Jews here, right? 1939, September 1st, when the Nazis invaded, there were 3.5 million Jews living in Poland. Ostensibly, 90% of them were murdered. What's 10% of 3.5 million? 350,000, still a lot of Jews. So these Jews who stayed, they were Jews who chose Polishness over Jewishness. They saw their future here, and it was a future that wasn't a Jewish future. So they stayed here, they had children. Most likely they didn't tell their children anything about Jewishness. Maybe they did, but most likely they didn't. Today, the Jews in Poland are mostly the children and grandchildren of these people. By the way, also these people were Holocaust survivors, right? They had tremendous amount of trauma, right? That they also passed on to their children. Another reason to hide their Jewishness.
Coming to Poland, it's been amazing to see. The first day we learned about like the Jewish heritage before the war and Jewish life now in Poland. We just heard from the assistant head rabbi of Poland, and he shared with us a lot about what Jewish life in Poland was today and seeing how it's progressed over the years.
1988, Hanna Schlammenberg designed this monument that is called the Monument to Umschlagplatz. Umschlagplatz means the square of the deportation. On the back side, there are the names. These are the symbols of about 300,000 people that left from here toward the gas chambers, as you can read in English, Yiddish, Hebrew, and Polish within the dates 1942 when the deportation started till 1943 when officially the ghetto was closed.
Rabbi, if you look at the names, it's all first names. Abba, Abel, Abigail, pick any letter, you'll see Hebrew names, Yiddish names, Polish names. This is basically where the Jews were brought, and they were headed for their final destination, which was Treblinka, which was a concentration camp where 800,000 Jews were killed in Treblinka. From this square right here, they were pushed into waiting boxcars to their final destination, Treblinka. Final destination was their final destination. Nobody came home. Nobody ever came back. Try and put yourself in that position. Imagine coming here. The people didn't know. They weren't told, oh, you're going to be executed in a concentration camp. They told they were being relocated, moved, whatever it is, but they were not told what to expect. They could bring certain luggage with them and so on.
As it was mentioned yesterday, using the words of Chaim Kaplan, it was not only physical wall, but it was the wall that was created in the mind of people. So sometimes when you lived behind the walls, this is what you see. You didn't have any view. But above that, that was as well 1 feet of a metal barbed wire. Theoretically, it was possible to leave or to jump over, but it was difficult to survive on the other side because it was not that easy.
It's a little bit chilling, to be honest. It's scary, like just being in the place where, like fellow Jews were, and how they were treated. It's scary to know that it all happened here. It's very important that it remains and that we remain here, that we acknowledge what happened.
Just less than 100 years ago, this used to be a whole community here. It was choked down because of the ghetto. Just think about like nowadays. So it's crazy to think how things can change less than a century. It's insane.
Here where we are entering right now, this is another monument that is commemorating, and it is dedicated to the people who died in Warsaw ghetto out of starvation, number of diseases, and this whole structure that you can see right now, new arrangements with metal, with the fences, with stone. It is dedicated to the mass grave that exists over here. Wherever you can see the stone, there used to be huge, deep pitches, and the people who were dying in the streets of the Warsaw ghetto, they were put in the mass grave. So we are right now just about to enter the place where the people were buried. We don't know their names.
All these places, all these like ancient Jewish sites were just empty and void. And I definitely felt that every time I went to these places. Like I just felt like something happened here, and just feels so empty.
My name is Jake Ordentlich. I am from Queens. And the main reason I came on this Names Not Numbers trip is to make everything a bit more tangible. And I feel as though it's important that everyone gets as full a feeling as possible of what actually happened here, so that they can best advocate in the future, because, people aren't immortal. Holocaust survivors are not going to be here forever, and we're going to have to carry the torch a bit. Today we're going to one of the most important places to do that, which is a concentration camp. It's the center of all of this. And to go to the center of it is just another level of tangibility. It's just another level of you can touch it, you can hold it, you can feel it.
If you look to the left, you'll see the camp and what's left of it, and you can just marvel at the amazing size. Just unbelievable how huge the place is.
We are in the area of concentration camp Lublin. It was established in autumn 1941, at the beginning as a camp for prisoners of war of Soviet army. Then it started to be used as a concentration camp for Jews and also kind of death camp. The historians say that there was about like maybe 150 people go through the camp, and around 100, maybe a bit less, maybe like 80,000 people were killed here.
To walk into a concentration camp, it's surreal. I think that's the only way to describe it, but you can only like try to imagine what it was actually like 75 years ago.
So here, when there was a transport, those who, the camp crew said, okay, we'll use you as a worker, we need you somehow. They said, you go to the camp. And children, the people who did this, old people who they decided not to use and not to have here, they say, we will take you to the shower. And the shower was actually a gas chamber. So this is the place. So this was like men bathroom, and there was like undressing room. So if someone came here, was forced to leave his dress, and then they went naked. So you must imagine, you know, the group of few dozens of scared, naked people inside, and it was a place of murder.
I'm not gonna lie, the instant I walked into the gas chambers, I thought I was gonna throw up. It's right there, it was thousands of Jews, literally 53 from me that were just murdered like it was nothing, and I don't know, it's pretty surreal. It's a bit hard to comprehend at the moment, but yeah.
Barracks were usually overcrowded. The design was like 200, 250 people should slept in such a place, but they use it for up to 500 prisoners. You must know it's like full of people, but there's no any heating system. So in the winter, only heat was actually heat of their bodies. Killing of Jews from Poland was mostly here, like in Lublin region and this area. But when they killed people in those death camps, they took their things, clothes, shoes, teeth even.
This was not as I was expecting. I didn't realize how cramped and small and just everything was here was just designed to be torturous. I did not expect this. It's horrible how people can do this.
It's mind-boggling to see how like it's possible that something like this could ever happen. I mean, we're literally standing in the middle of a city. Buildings all around us, everything's here, and somehow they just put up this massive camp, and it was open for 3 years without anything stopping it, without anybody stopping it, and I can't even really wrap my mind around like what I'm really seeing. Like, I just don't understand it.
So this is the original road that was built by the prisoners during the Holocaust, and a lot of the stones, the Germans took the tombstones from Jewish cemeteries and built the road and had the roads be built out of those. When we're looking at it, we can understand the atrocity of it, and so I guess it's our job to remember those people that had their gravestones taken away and the prisoners, and it's our job to try and do what the Germans didn't want us to do.
I'm really, really cold here. And it's towards the end of winter. Spring is just around the corner. And the middle of winter, the times of Holocaust, I can't imagine what they must have gone through.
So here is the last field, fifth field. And here we have a so-called new crematory on the beginning of 1943. They decided this is not enough effective to have old crematory over there, and they built new one, bigger, with capacity to dust more bodies in one day.
It's very intense in here. These are the ovens. Guys, it was very intense in the ovens. Okay, just mentally prepare yourself.
This is execution rows of this last execution of 18,000 men on 3rd November of 1942 here in Lublin. You see 18,400 Jews, prisoners of Majdanek and other labor camps from Lublin who were executed on this site.
What we have behind us are ashes and other remnants of the people who perished here. I'd like to read to you a passage from the Navi Yechezkel, a very moving and appropriate passage for where we are. You'll see why it's appropriate, because we have behind us remnants of body parts and so on. The hand of Hashem was upon me, took me out by the Spirit of Hashem, and set me down in the valley which was full of bones. He led me around and around them, and behold, they were very abundant upon the surface of the valley, and behold, they were very dry. Then Hashem said to me, "The Son of Man, can these bones live again?" And I said, "My Lord Hashem, only you know." Hashem said to me, "Prophesy over these bones and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says Hashem, behold, to these bones I'll bring spirit to you and you shall live. I prophesied as had been commanded. The Spirit entered them and they lived, and they stood upon their feet, a very vast multitude. And Hashem said to me, Son of man, these bones, they are the whole people of Israel. Behold, they say our bones have dried, and our hope is lost, and we are doomed. Thus says Hashem, behold, I shall open your graves and raise you from your graves, my people. I shall put my spirit into you, shall live, and I shall set you on your soil. You shall know that I am God. I have spoken and done. These are the words of Hashem. It speaks about ashes and bones coming back to life, our belief in Tchis HaMesim, appropriate thought for this particular place.
The
If you told me that there were 3.5 million Jews in Poland, that they made up 10% of the population, it would be really hard to believe it looking at it now. All the shuls, most of them are shuttered. Jews there are really just like another museum relic.
On the 75th anniversary of liquidation of ghetto in Lublin, artists who cooperate with us painted this mural. It's based on old photos from Jewish quarter of Lublin. There's a collection of photos by Stefan Kiełczniak. So thanks to him, we have a picture of everyday life.
So right now we're in the Lublin cemetery, which has gravestones from 500 years ago. And it's kind of amazing and awe-inspiring to see like how old and rooted the Jewish community in Poland was. And, you know, we just came back from Majdanek, where we saw the destruction of the Jewish community. It was just really crazy thing to wrap around that for centuries there was a Polish community here of Polish Jews, and then in just a matter of a few years they were all wiped out and uprooted from their homes.
We're standing in front of, it could be a mass grave. It's about 100 kids who were killed on April 24th, I think 1942. They were all orphans, and the Nazis killed them here.
Is that a real person or a sculpture? It's a Jewish monument, actually. It's a man and a monkey. Jascha Mazur was the main character of Itzhak Bashevis Singer, a magician of Lublin. So that's him.
It really is a Jewish memorial.
Yeah, it's a Jewish hero.
I think Poland helped enhance my Judaism in the sense that it allowed me to feel like I was connected to something a lot bigger.
Seeing everything that we're learning about, it comes to life, and it really left a lasting impact on me.
Yesterday morning we went to Majdanek, which was our first visit to a concentration camp. And the emotions that went on there are definitely hard to put into words. And this morning we davened at Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin, which was a super cool experience to carry on the legacy. Now we're on our way to Belzec, which is one of the death camps in Poland. And the emotions there are going to be extremely powerful, and we'll see what happens.
I'm looking forward to learning more about this part of Poland, and I want to learn more history about what it was like being Jewish in Belzec.
This is commemoration, but this is commemoration in the whole area of the camp. You know, it wasn't a huge camp. It was quite tiny place on the train line. Here you can see, here was a kind of even no selection, but kind of plundering. They forced them to undress, gave their personal belongings, and then they forced them to go that way, officially to the bathroom, but it was a gas chamber, and it was the end of the story. In summer 1942, they just decided to destroy evidence and everything. So in 1944, Soviet army came here, there was nothing, it was a field.
It's not really a huge area, certainly compared to what we saw yesterday in Majdanek, but 500,000 people were killed here. In mid-March of 1942, let's recall that the invasion of Poland was in September of 1939. And again, the numbers are a little, but approximately 75 to 80% of all victims of the Holocaust were still alive in mid-March of 1942. 11 months later, mid-February 1943, the numbers were opposite. And 75 to 80% of the victims were dead. So from March to December 1942, it's basically 7 months, 500,000, approximately 500,000 people killed. Just you do the math, it's a staggering thing. Here you have on the wall again, similar to what we saw in the Umschlagplatz in Warsaw, a list of names, only first names, because there's really no records, right? There's no records of who exactly was here. This was not, again, people just.
We know only, transports and places from which transport came and how many people more or less came from those places. So this is just the names, like typical names.
Typical Jewish and Polish names.
Jewish and Polish, but yeah, the names of Jews from those places.
The reason we light candles always in memory of somebody, the pasuk says, Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. Person's neshama is compared to a ner. Many ideas behind that.
So when we were at Majdanek, it was a very different experience than anything I've experienced before. You could definitely feel like presence, I guess, of the people who were there before. You were stepping where the victims had stepped in the gas chambers. You were stepping in the showers where some of the people who survived had stepped before. But when we were at Belzec, there's nothing there anymore. Everything was destroyed. The feeling of destruction and death was much stronger. And you try to imagine the 500,000 people who were killed there, and you just feel the death surrounding you.
I have a lot of family roots from here in Poland. Also, I feel that it's important to look into one's history so they can really build a foundation. It's important to know where one came from, to have a strong sense of self and like a strong sense of identity.
When you come to Poland, you really feel the Judaism that was here before the war. We talk about how Judaism is a chain and each generation is another link. Because of the Holocaust, there's a lost generation. When you come to Poland, you feel that that link of the chain was here, and we have to take that link and pass it down to the next generation.
JCC, Jewish Community Center of Krakow. Around 10 years ago, I got a call from the chief rabbi of Poland. His name is Michael Shidrich, and says, can you be the rabbi of Krakow, Poland? And I said, Rabbi, but there are no Jews. And he said to me, Rabbi, you're sorely mistaken. There's a remarkable renaissance that's taken place, a miraculous revival of Jewish life. And if you come here, you'll be part of it, and you'll see that Jewish life continues to grow, even thrive. As I said, there are 800 members of the Jewish Community Center. There are probably 1,000 Jewish members in Krakow. There are probably 10,000 Jews in Krakow, and we'll talk about that. They just don't know it yet. Hitler wanted to murder and genocide, wanted to murder the Jewish memory, that there are no Jews left. And now, all these years later, we have a chance for a tikkun. We have a chance to fix that. And I want you to know that 10 years ago, Jews came on groups, and they went from one concentration camp to another concentration camp. The narrative was always Jews were murdered in Poland and Jews survived elsewhere. And we have a change in that narrative. Yes, there's 1,000 years of Jewish history here, and yes, there was the Holocaust, and it's important to learn about all of that. But there's a third component that we've been screaming from the rooftops. There's a revival of Jewish life. If Jews can survive an hour away from Auschwitz, it talks about our power to be able to constantly look forward, think about the future, bring light to the world, and be able to rehabilitate ourselves and others if possible. Instead of saying, I went to Poland and say death camps, you'll say, I went to Poland and I learned about a long history and a tragedy and also a miracle.
Had a klezmer concert. It was interesting because it gives us a glimpse into what culture was like before the war, like hundreds of years ago. Jews had a long history here, and they played a lot of music that really embodies the culture of this area of Poland and of this area of Europe in general for the Jewish community.
This is not the type of music that we usually listen to, but like just a few minutes in, we were all into it, and it was an amazing experience that I'll probably never forget.
At first it starts off slow and then it gets faster and people get into it.
It made me realize how much culture and music I'm missing, and everyone loves it, and that was amazing. Yeah.
Walking through Auschwitz was honestly emotionally challenging for me because I heard so many stories, how horrible the place was, and just how this was the worst place, and I felt like, how can I be here walking as a tourist where other people have been here as victims? Like, it just doesn't feel, it just feels horrible.
Auschwitz is the thing that you read most about in the books, you see most about in the movies. When we were actually there, it was like, it's difficult to put into words. We saw the barracks, and we saw the train tracks and the cattle cars, and we saw in the museum that they have, like the display of like all the shoes and all the luggage and even all the hair. It was like ununderstandable. It didn't even make any sense how people could do this to each other. We had the privilege of being with Holocaust survivor Dov Landau that day, and his presence really made that experience all the more impactful.
Hearing him tell his story, showing us where they happened, was an experience like no other. Once people and the other visitors in the camp saw that we were with a survivor, everyone came running, whether it was asking for a bracha or just wanting to hear a story, wanting to cleave to a Holocaust survivor because of the incredible perseverance he had in his time and also the stories he had to tell.
79 years ago, when I've been brought here to Birkenau Auschwitz, impossible to understand how I'm able to do this and to go with a group from New York, from university, Yeshiva University. I don't know how I did it, how I survived. Only HaKadosh Baruch Hu Benjamin.
This is a gas chamber in Auschwitz, but it's not the gas chamber in Birkenau, not the major gas chamber. This was at one point in the war. This was used kind of like a primitive type of gas chamber. This is the gas chamber here, and the crematorium was right next door. So we're going to the crematorium. And here they burnt the bodies right away. El malei rachamim, shoichein v'amromim, hamitzei menucha nachayna, al kanfei hashechina, b'malos kedoshim etahorim, kezohar harakia mazirim, es nishmos achinu b'nei Yisrael, שהומסו ושנשחטו ושנחנקו במקום הזה לפני כ-80 שנה, אשר אנחנו מתפללים בארז קורס נשמעותיהם בגן עדן תהי מניחוסם, לכן בלרחם יסתירם בסייסר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור חיים את נשמעותיהם, אדוני הוא נחלתם וינוחו בשלום ומשכבותיהם, ונאמר אמן.
I was thinking, like, you know, my great-great-grandfather went through this, and I'm pretty sure he died there. And just really hard to be walking there and knowing that, like, I'm gonna make it out. But it was also inspiring to know that I'm the next link in the chain, and I'm gonna continue what they started.
אנשים לא מעניינים אותי. So you see the place, I came here after being registered over there. You got a bread, 250 grams of bread and 1 piece of a cheese. In the morning, now you have to go out and to schlep, the rocks. What I've seen in this time, I was 15 years old. I lost already my 3 brothers, and they've been shot in the ghetto of Bochnia before that. So what? And I still remember everything, but I am very, very satisfied that I'm able to tell you what it was with me. I just ask every day, God should bless me and should give me a lot of strength, how to be able to suffer and to be able to live.
It's been an honor for us to share a flower with you. Thanks for your telling. Thanks, Lord.
Okay, my wife her name Shoshana. So that's why you give me. I've got flower Shoshana. My wife is with me now. She passed away 12 years ago, but they give me now a flower Shoshana.
I think one thing that was very lasting, really stayed with me after the trip, was this gateway that kind of opened to parts of my emotions that I wasn't necessarily open to before. To really feel connected when another Jew was hurting somewhere else, some other time. And I felt it at the Ashes by Majdanek, and I feel it now with what's going on in the world. Every single Jew who's been hurt and who's hurting. I feel that same pain of looking at all that dust and knowing that they were once people. Now they're not here.
My grandfather always said that the revenge towards the Nazis is the fact that we are standing here today, the children, the grandchildren, and we are living Yiddishkeit.
The Poland trip with Names Not Numbers was really, really an amazing experience. I'm very glad I went. Visiting the ghettos, visiting the death camps, visiting everything we visited, it was a hard pill to swallow. As a Jew, it's very important to remember who we are. It's important to remember where we came from.
This is, in my opinion, an experience. Seeing pictures, that's just one part of it. But actually going to the places, that really changed my whole perspective of the Holocaust. That's why it was really important to come on this trip.
I'm definitely not 100% sure exactly what I experienced in Poland, but I can't fully understand still what happened there. I guess that would be the questions that I have left. It's just, I can't understand how survivors were able to continue on every day. I can't understand how those monsters lived with themselves after doing those horrible things. That was the only thing I understood. Everything else is still pretty much a question.